Well, Mr. Clark, so much for the video today. I couldn't get it to work.
I'll tell you what, it was an interesting challenge, and sometimes we are tested by our technical abilities. It makes life entertaining.
I don't know what was going on, so sorry, folks. It wasn't playing on my end. I don't think it was playing live for you guys, so I decided to pull the plug on that puppy.
It started, and then it just kind of started hiccuping, and it really wasn't going, and, what are you going to do? So
I think it's because I got too many windows open that I wanted to show during this broadcast. So I think that's what's going on. So anyway, hey everybody! Wow, we got some fans out there and supporters. This is awesome.
We have a couple of folks that like us out there and that are joining us. That's good because we've got a couple things. Today's going to be pretty light. We're going to move fast through what we're doing, and we're going to show you some things that are new to U.S. term limits on our webpage and ask for your help in a couple of different areas, and away we go.
Yeah, so what I want to do is, before we get into that, Clark, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Ken Quinn, Regional Director with U.S. Term Limits. I cover the North region. I live in Maine, out to Iowa, Minnesota, that section of the country. Ken, why don't you share about where you cover?
My name's Ken Clark. I cover the southeast states from Texas all the way up to Virginia and West Virginia. And in between those, so we just call my region the South region. There's 16 states in there. We call Ken's region the North region. And then Ron Hooper's region, we call the Western states.
Yeah, and Ron Hooper, he's on vacation this week, so he's the third regional. So we wish Ron a good time with his family. Normally he's with us on this live broadcast. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. And a little bit of house cleaning, I guess we should call it. We're going to give you the real lowdown on what we're working on. Obviously, it's term limits for Congress. And this can only come by an amendment to the U.S. Constitution. We cannot vote for this. Okay, so every time we go live, we're going to see people saying the people should vote for it, put it on the ballot. Okay, been there, done that. We got the T-shirt, and the Supreme Court of the United States overturned all the laws.
That's right. That's right.
So we cannot vote for this. The only way we can get term limits on the U.S. Congress, and that's both the House and the Senate, is under Article 5, the amending provision of the U.S. Constitution. There's two ways to propose amendments. We need either 2/3 of both houses of Congress to propose the amendment and then have the states ratify it, or 2/3 of the states apply for a convention to propose it, and then 3/4 of them ratify. So that's what we're working on. We're actually trying to advance it through both methods. And I want to get to a convention. I know you want to get to a convention because I think that's going to be the best.
Yeah, and I wanted to address that a little bit. I was on the phone with a volunteer today, and I'm not going to tell you what state he was in, but he was talking. He's very active in his state. He's a very good guy. He's hopefully going to be helping us out quite a bit, and he knows his way around the legislative process. But he started talking about Article 5 as opposed to a quote-unquote constitutional convention. There are some folks out there that do want a full-blown constitutional convention to put everything on the table, open up the Constitution, rewrite it for today's age, and all of that. And we had a conversation, or he and I had this conversation, and I told him that I'm adamantly opposed to that. I do not want to open up the Constitution to be rewritten. In my mind, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not being adhered to for one simple reason, and that's the Supreme Court. But what we are proposing is a very different animal than a constitutional convention. All we want to do is propose an amendment, an amendment to limit the terms of Congress. That's it. That's all we want to do. So we want an amendments proposing convention. And that is a convention of the states for the purposes of proposing an amendment. That's it. Just one amendment. We are not after a constitutional convention. Now, there are those that are out there, and that's great.
I'll be honest, Ken, I've never run across anybody seeking a constitutional convention.
I have, and I've run across a few of them, not very many, but he had been exposed to an organization that's trying to do that very thing.
Okay, yeah. Well, there's also organizations out there that will call this a constitutional convention when it's not. And we've covered this in the past programs. I'm not going to go into it today, but there's two different types of conventions. The bar to call a constitutional convention is much higher. The process is different. And so that's not what we're working on. I, too, would oppose such a convention. And, but yeah, I don't.
What I liked about it, Ken, was simply that there's an organization out there pushing for that, and they are trying to make the same distinction you and I are.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And if they do that, there's no way they'll ever get there.
Oh,
you know,
yeah, I like to look at. Well, we'll talk afterwards. I want to.
Yeah, we'll talk after that.
All right. Okay. So good stuff. And one of the things we're going to be covering in this episode is some of the new stuff we're working on behind the scenes and kind of rolling out. So we thought we would kind of give everybody an update of our technology and what we're doing on our website and Facebook page. And why don't we let's just jump into, well, you know what? We normally do some kind of an Article 5 history thing. So why don't I just briefly cover what we were discussing before we started the program? And one of the segments that we usually will do is a little bit of history about Article 5. And what I like to do is go back to the ratification period and provide quotes by the framers back in history on, because it's really clear in their own writings, they were specific that an Article 5 convention is limited. And I will normally quote the Federalist Papers. I'll quote letters from the framers. What I wanted to show you today is just a couple of quotes from the Anti-Federalists. Did you know there's the Anti-Federalist Papers as well?
Well, I'm familiar with a little bit of that, but not like you are.
Yeah, so actually, there's a couple great books.
Explain the difference real quick between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists.
Yeah, great question. So let me, I'm going to pull up the screen here and let me just do a little. So the Federalist Papers, that is three gentlemen, Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay, wrote the Federalist Papers to convince the people of New York to ratify the Constitution. It's 85 letters that went published into the newspapers. They are probably the number one source to understand the intent of the framers, because they go into great detail in regards to all the provision, well, most of the provisions, especially Article 5 as well. And during that period, you had the Anti-Federalists who opposed the ratification. They did not like it because, number one, it didn't include the Bill of Rights and a number of other things. So, I am not totally against some of their arguments, because some of their arguments, they nailed it. They predicted what would happen, and we're seeing it today. So both patriotic individuals, they wanted to redo the Constitution, and the Federalists realized, listen, there's absolutely no way a second convention could produce anything better, because by that time, both sides have drawn lines and they couldn't even agree amongst themselves. And so there's two books I got. These are really good. These actually cover pretty much the entire ratification period. I don't know if you can read.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, these cover both the Federalist arguments and the Anti-Federalist arguments. And what I wanted to pull up on the screen here, I found a couple of these on the website. Let me just go to the first one. Let me go full screen here, and I'm going to hide the quote. Okay, so you might not be able to see all of this, but this is written by the Federal Farmer. Now, the Federalist Papers, the pseudonym that they wrote under was Publius. And this gentleman, Richard Henry Lee, most of you are probably familiar with him. He was a member of the convention for the Declaration of Independence, I believe. He was an Anti-Federalist during the ratification period. And so what he wrote here is kind of interesting. And at the last, give me 1 second. I didn't, I probably should have highlighted this right here. I think it's right in the beginning. He said this, quote, "It may also be worthy our examination how far the provision for amending this plan when it shall be adopted is of any importance. No measures can be taken towards amendments unless 2/3 of the Congress or 2/3 of the legislatures of the several states shall agree. Okay, so right there, it's very clear, and I've been harping on this for weeks now, that 2/3, so that today is 34 states, must agree on the amendment or the amendments that they seek in order to call the convention. Okay, so here he confirms that by comparing it. Either 2/3 of Congress have to obviously agree to propose one, or 2/3 of the states need to agree to call the convention to propose an amendment. And so I found that pretty interesting. I also want to share with you another Federalist, Anti-Federalist. This was, I forget who this was, but under this section here, let's see. And this is kind of interesting. I'm going to read this, a little bit of this. Quote, "The conditions, I say, upon which any alterations can take place appear to me to be such as never will exist. 2/3 of both houses of Congress or the legislatures of 2/3 of the states must agree in desiring a convention to be called." So again, concurrence of the subject matter. Now, near the end of this, it's really interesting. He says, let's see. Oh, shoot. Let me go down to, well, right here. It says this: the legislatures of the states will be but forms and shadows, and it will be the height of arrogance and presumption in them to turn their thoughts to such subjects. After this Constitution is once established, it is too evident that we shall be obliged to fill up the offices with assemblymen and counselors as do those of constables. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I don't want to go into this because it's a little bit long, but basically, in a nutshell, he is basically saying it's never going to happen. But he was wrong because he didn't think Congress would ever propose amendments, so he was wrong on that point. So he was right in claiming that the states calling for a convention, it could take decades. Okay, he's right about that. He is right about that. But he foresaw the difficulty on getting 2/3 of the states to agree on amendments in order to propose them in the convention. So,
and here's one thing I wanted to address that real quick. And I know I'm going down a rabbit hole. Never before in our history, our country's been divided in the past many times. I mean, we had a civil war. There's no doubt about it. And right before the Civil War, we almost got to an Article 5 convention. And right now, our country is very much divided, and everybody sees the issues. So now, in my mind, the time is right for the people to call on their legislators to act, because their state legislators are the only ones with the authority to do anything about the federal government. And I think it's to a tipping point now where people are starting to see that. They're looking for a solution. We are that solution.
Yeah, exactly. I think folks are waking up to the reality that it's time we really start doing something serious, because if we don't, things are going to get really, really bad for us. So
right, and in a hurry.
And that's why I really believe that this one issue is the number one issue that can get us to a convention. Get us now it's not the silver bullet, but it's going to be the first step in a great number of steps towards reforms. And along with that, we could see other reforms being proposed in future conventions. So we got to get now. It's interesting you talked about that Civil War period of time, Ken, because a current candidate for office put an article in the paper in Letters to the Editor, spewing all of these lies about an Article 5 convention. And he closed it out saying, heck, the states never even got into a convention prior to the Civil War. And that just shows you the ignorance of it, because now technically it wasn't an Article 5 convention that was called by Virginia, but they did get to a convention in 1861. 21 states did meet to try to stop the Civil War from taking place. And unfortunately, they waited too long. but it just shows you the amount of ignorance out there.
Well, and they wrote a proposal and gave that proposal to Congress, and because it didn't have the authority of Article 5, it couldn't go out to the states for ratification. Congress then did nothing. They didn't vote on it. They didn't, and it would have taken 2/3 of both chambers to vote that out of Congress, and they didn't.
Exactly.
So it never became a proposal.
Yep, it was never proposed. Yeah. So anyway. Right. Okay, that's my little history bit. We'll cover more of that in the future, and let's jump into our agenda item number 1. We were just kind of talking today, and you know what? I think it's time that we hit 1 million likes on our Facebook page. Don't you, Clark?
I've been wondering why we aren't there yet. I know we have the support. We get anywhere from 20 to 30,000 people viewing this broadcast every week. And I know that Term Limits has got massive amount of support out there. But you know what, Ken? One of the reasons we've never gotten to 1 million on our Facebook page is we've never asked for it.
Yeah. Hey, you have not because you ask not, correct? So
that's right.
So what we want all of you to do, I am going to, again, let me share my screen here. I'm going to bring up now we have Facebook pages in every state. This is the national Facebook page. So this is our U.S. Term Limits Facebook page. And currently, I think I looked at it a little bit earlier today. We have about 859,000 likes on here right now. And I would really, all of us at U.S. Term Limits would like to see this over 1 million. And I want to get it done organically. So what I'm going to ask you to do, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it pretty well.
Okay. So we want you to share this with your friends, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And in fact, I'm going to do it. I'm going to blast my friends right now. So this is the banner page. If you go directly underneath the banner page, there's those little 3 dots right next to the share button. You click on that and you scroll down to invite your friends. And it's going to pull up all of your friends, and it makes it very, very easy to share this. And so, as you can tell, a number of hey, Clark, you're one of my friends on Facebook.
That's oh my goodness. I have to block you.
So I am going to, now some of these folks, I don't think it's going to send it to them if they've already liked it. So I'm going to select all, and what you might want to do before you send it is, let's see, it's got a little pre-written, I'm inviting you to like this page because I thought you might be okay. So you can change that. I'm going to leave that as it is just to save time. And so now I'm going to, wow, 641. Okay. Imagine this. We typically get around 25,000 people that view this segment within a week or so. Imagine if just a quarter of everybody, let's say 5,000 people, did this with their friend list. We could hit 1 million very, very quickly. Okay, so that's our goal. We want 1 million likes. We want to go over 1 million likes in 1 week. So here, I'm sending out to 641, and here we go. Boom. Done. Okay, so please do that. Do it before we end this segment. While you're all on Facebook. I know you're there. So look it up. Go to the top. It's on our page. The page you're on now. This is it. So share that with all your friends, and let's hit 1 million. That would be kind of cool. Next week, I'm going to come back and be able to praise all of you for getting us to that. How's that sound? All right.
That would be really cool. That would be really cool. You need to drop so.
Do what?
Drop off your on, because I don't know if you're hearing back. I am.
Yeah, let me.
There you go. Nope.
All right, I'm going to close out that page. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, a little feedback there. Okay, so that's agenda item number 1. The next one I want to share is our YouTube channel. And let me pull up that screen. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, you really got to.
How do you get there, Ken?
Are you asking me because you don't know? You don't know by now, Clark, how to get to our YouTube channel?
You should share it.
Well, the simplest way is I just go to YouTube and type in U.S. Term Limits, and then I'll pull it up, and then I save it as a favorite. I'm sure if you go to our website. Maybe it's on our website. Let's see. Why you always throw a curveball at me, make me look like I don't know what I'm doing?
Well, if you want people to go to our page,
okay, hey, I got it. All right, it's way down at the very bottom of our website, right there. That is the YouTube icon. So nice try, Clark. You couldn't fool me, but that's one way of doing it. Or you can just go to YouTube. I'm in a rare mood this afternoon. If you can't, I'm taking tomorrow off, so maybe that's why. So anyway, back to the channel. So if you have not now, listen. This was going viral just a couple of weeks ago. Nick's testimony before the subcommittee in Congress, and if you haven't watched that yet, you gotta watch this. Well, don't play it now, Clark.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
The beauty of this testimony before Congress is that our executive director, Nick Tombolidis, he references Kanye West and head lice in his testimony. You gotta love it. But check out our YouTube. Share that again with your friends on Facebook. Let's get that. That's over 1.4 million views. Let's get that over 2 million here soon. You'll see a lot of, if you just click the videos, you'll see all of them. And you can sort by date or most popular. And again, a lot of stuff here. A lot of ways to learn. One thing I wanted to show you today, and this is the playlist we just put together for Article 5. And if you've missed previous segments of this live broadcast, this is where I do a lot of this stuff, and I've been producing a quick video to kind of address points that we hear all the time. Want to basically refute. Just go to the playlist. I'm going to show you the full playlist right now. This will be growing pretty much on a weekly basis, but here's some of the ones that we've covered already. I've been really focused on proving beyond a shadow of a doubt, irrefutable evidence that the Article 5 convention is limited. So if you have any legislators or that are struggling with that issue, pick up a video and flip it to them.
Some of that information is really dynamic because you'll hear a lot of things out there talking to people, and a lot of it is misinformation. Some of it is outright lies. And so you want to arm yourself with the truth. And Quinn has put together a dynamic library of the facts, basically. And you want to make sure you have them when you're talking to people, because for whatever reason, there's a lot of people that are trying to stop what we're doing. Well, we understand why. We'll take the power away from Washington, D.C., and that's bad. Give it back to the people. Can't have that. So you want to make sure you know what the facts are, because one of the things that I tell people always is the facts are on our side. The facts are the facts. In this world of emotion, in this world of feel-good politics, you've got to get the facts.
Oh, not only are the facts on our side, the actual writings of the framers are on our side. The debates in Congress way back then are on our side, and our experience throughout the past over 200 years from our founding are completely
support what we're doing. Yeah. I mean, anyway. We need your help. Somebody asked what they can do to help. We need your help. Going liking us on Facebook brings in more people into the fold. And so when you share that Facebook page, when you share that Article 5 library, our YouTube library with people, they will become informed. They will then look at this and go, wow, we really can do this. I want to help. That gentleman I was talking to earlier today, that volunteer, he's a prime example of that.
Yeah, and I'm going to show you a few more things that you can help us with, because we have got to grow this, and growing it through social media is the fastest way we can accomplish this, and that alone right there will help accomplish a lot. And if you are in whatever state you're in, make sure you look up your state Facebook page, because sometimes we post calls to action, and normally that's not going to be on the national page. It's going to be on your state page. So after you well, if you've already liked this one, make sure you go to your state one, and you can look that up just by going to New Hampshire term limits, Connecticut term limits. We made it very simple, and just look for our logo and you'll find it.
And if you really had an inclination, you could go to Maine term limits and like that page.
and Maine term limits, which I have. Okay, let's show. This is something that's really kind of helpful as well. The digital team, Stacy and Donna and others have really spent a lot of time putting together and kind of consolidating some research that I think I'm finding very helpful. And it's under now, I don't know if it's been posted yet. So let me just pull up the website again. I'm going to show you how to find it. And it's just under research. So termlimits.com research, I believe. I'm hoping I'm right. Oh, I didn't spell it right. So that's not going to work. Bear with me, guys. Research.
Yeah, come on, Ken.
Okay, so termlimits.com/research, and it's going to pull up the term limits research library. And let me just hide this a little bit. The first section you're going to see, now this is great. I've been emailing this. A lot of our staff people and have been sending this information to legislators and candidates. These are recent polls that were done this year in these states. The poll was done by Pulse Opinion Research. And if you go over here on the view, you can actually just pull up the results of that. And we've done this in a number of states. We've had this commissioned in a number of states. So check it out. You'll see overwhelming support for term limits for Congress. Now, some of these, I think, bring in other questions as well. Let me just share with you real quick one of my states. It's in Iowa. So Iowa. And the first two questions ask the survey, the respondents about, do you approve basically placing term limits on Congress? And then it goes into the Article 5 resolution that we're working on. So that's really, really important. And if you notice on that issue alone, 72% of the folks surveyed in Iowa support that. So when candidates see that and legislators see that, that gets their attention. So make sure you check out our research library. If you go down further, this is going to be building on a pretty regular basis, but there's more information here other than surveys. Give me 1 second. Go down to the very bottom, and you're going to see articles, other reports on term limits. So this is great. So have you checked this out yet, Clark?
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Check it out.
Yeah. It is awesome.
And we're going to be adding more to this on an ongoing basis. So I wanted everybody to see that as well. Let me, oh, you know what? Let me just add that to a thread. So I'm going to add this to the thread, everybody. Just click on it, save it as a favorite. If somebody might have already done this already. So if you haven't,
it's not.
Okay.
I've been trying to There we go.
Okay, good. Yeah. I noticed that your mic, when I pull up that page, your audio goes out a little bit. So I'm going to bring us back in.
Yeah. When you pull up any other page, for whatever reason, my audio has been going out. It's kind of strange today.
Yeah. So let me wrap this up real quick. I'm going to just show you a couple of the things, and then I'll bring you back in, Ken. So the two more things that are really important to us, and if you could share this as well, is when you go to our landing page, you're going to see the petition. If you have not signed our petition yet, please do so. That's critical because that's how we communicate with you. We send out calls to action. We inform you of what's happening with the resolutions in your states. And so I'm an admin here. There we go. So if you're not getting our emails, you're probably not going to be participating in the calls to action. So sign that petition. We also will provide the legislators a list of everyone in their district, just their names and address, so they know they're in their district, of who supports this. So we need to grow support in the state districts so that when I'm meeting, or the volunteers, or Ken, or members of our team are meeting with legislators, they can hand them pages of petition signers. So that's how we use this information. It's really critical to our effort. And the last thing I want to show you here is the podcast. Phil Blumel, our president, and Nick Tumblies, our executive director, do a weekly podcast that comes out every Monday. Please subscribe to that and share that as well. That gets posted up here every Monday morning. The newest one gets posted, and you can listen to it, and please share. It's only 30 minutes. It goes really fast, and it's some really good information. So that's all I wanted to share with you guys there. And let me bring you back, Clark. All right.
One thing about that podcast, they have an awful lot of fun doing that. Nick is a riot. If you've never listened to Nick Trombley's, I butchered his name, you should. He is so much fun. And he's the guy that sat in front of a Senate committee hearing and compared senators and congressmen to lice.
Oh, okay. Let's be accurate. He didn't compare them to lice. What he said was that head lice, I think, have a higher approval rating than Congress, or slightly below Congress, and they wanted a recount.
That's what he said. Yeah, very good. That's what he said. So I thought it was great. But it's entertaining. Point is, you learn a lot, and it's entertaining, and you get to know what's going on out there, what you can do to help, and laugh your butt off while you're doing it. It's great. And
he did it straight-faced, and it was just phenomenal. And I'm pretty sure he told the story that he had to submit his testimony before, and they wanted that removed. And
Senator Cruz wanted it removed, and Nick was like, "Yeah, maybe I'll think about it." And then he did it. It was great.
It's great stuff.
But anyway, you can find that video on YouTube, on our YouTube channel.
What's that?
You can find that testimony on our YouTube channel.
Did you know that? Yes, you can.
Yeah.
That thing, I don't know. It was interesting. About a couple of weeks ago, it just started. I had people sending it. My friends who had not liked our page yet were sending that to me in Facebook messages. And I'm like, well, cool. That's great. And I don't know what caused it to go viral, but it was kind of cool to see popping up everywhere. So we definitely want to keep that going. And listen, we got to get this done. Even though the anti-federalist guy said it'll never happen, the states will never agree on the subject. Yeah, we can agree on this one for sure. I know we can.
We can get this done, but it's going to take everybody's help, and because let's face it, Congress doesn't want us to be successful, and the establishment doesn't want us to be successful. And the elected officials out there don't want us to be successful, but we, the people, do. So it's up to us. And what's really cool about this topic is everybody agrees. We are unified in our understanding that we need to term limit Congress. I mean, everybody gets it. So this is one area where everybody agrees. So we should all be able to work together.
And the beauty of it is not do most people agree, but most Republicans, most Democrats, most progressives, conservatives, this thing polls so high across the entire political spectrum. I can't think of another issue that does that.
There is another issue that does.
And which means this is you have got to have supermajority support of the American people to get anything ratified. If you don't have the support of the American people, it's a grand waste of time. We not only have that, I bet you, okay, here's a little tidbit. What is the fastest, what was the shortest period of time an amendment got ratified? Do you know?
Ratified, it was a couple of months, wasn't it?
I'm pretty sure it's like 3 or 4 months. Okay.
Yeah.
I think this one would get ratified very close to that amount of time.
I do too. And so, Congress will, and the thing that is good about this and the way we're doing this, Congress has no say. They can't do anything. The whole point of Article 5 is to circumvent Congress. That's the whole point of it. The states created the federal government. Okay. The states have the authority to fix it. They do. They just have to quit being cowards and actually do it.
That's my favorite part about this. We're not depending on Congress for anything. In fact, they have no authority whatsoever in this whole process. Once we hit 34 states, it's out of their hands. It's all in the hands of the states at that point. And
it's in the hands of the states getting to 34 as well.
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, it's all in the hands of the states. I mean, start to finish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hook to crook. Wait a minute. Did I say that right? Bolts to nuts. Whatever. From
All right.
to finish.
I think we covered enough. I think I'm ready to go. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Thanks for everyone that told us where you are and for chiming in. We appreciate it. Let's get to 1 million by next week. I want to come back when we go live next week, Clark. If I don't see 1 million likes on our Facebook page, I'm coming after you.
We are going to have to do it again. What? It's like my fault if we don't get there? Come on. When I hit that send, never mind. I'm not going to do that.
So we can do this.
Yes, we can.
We're going to do it. All right.
All right. See you next week, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.